the 4 stages of childhood trauma and the healing process so that you can understand the healing process so that you can heal your childhood trauma. So in this video, that's exactly what I'm going to be explaining. How you can go from trauma to healing, especially childhood trauma, in a 4-step process. And the 4 stages, the 4 keys, whatever you want to call it. But this is the exact process. So make sure you stay to the end to understand the exact full process and enjoy this video. Welcome back to another video. I'm Max Hindle I, and I help entrepreneurs release childhood trauma so that you can live a powerful life without going through years of therapy. And yes, I have switched it up a little because I want to explain exactly what and how I can help you. And before we get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that bell icon so that you get notified whenever I post. But other than that, let's figure out these 4 stages to childhood trauma healing. So the first stage of healing childhood trauma is that of awareness. We need awareness. We need to be conscious of what is going on, where we are right now. And sometimes that does mean admitting, I've been through it. I've been through the ranks. I've literally had it been thrown at me constantly for a long time. And I've had some awful things happen. And we've got to be aware of that. Because when we're aware of that, we can then say, do I want to stay here or do I want to go somewhere else? And this is the ideal that I use, is we can realize in this place we feel hopeless. But we want to move to a place that is more hopeful. And without going there immediately, because it's a process, it's not just an overnight thing. It can be, as I've said, it is very possible. I've done it, I've had other people do it, and I've seen other people do it that are completely out of within my reach. So I know this is possible, but I want to offer you both options. I want to offer you a process, because I know that not everyone's going to have it like that, because to do that, you need extreme belief. You need to know that that's gone. So this is the other option that I want to go work with you and help you understand that that awareness can move you from hopeless or feeling hopeless, because you're not hopeless, that feeling of hopelessness, and move you to that feeling of hopefulness. I think that's a word. Because awareness is everything. And it's like they say, where you place your attention is where you place your energy. Where intention goes, energy flows. And the greatest example I can use, focus your intention on your right foot or your left foot. What can you now feel? Focus your intention on where your tongue's sitting in your mouth. Is it on the roof or is it laying flat? Now you're aware of it. And when we become aware of it, we can either change it because it feels uncomfortable, or we can stay the same. I always say, if we're staying the same, but we're still complaining, it doesn't really work. We need to start making those shifts in our life. So the first step to healing anything, but especially childhood trauma, is that awareness of where we are and where we want to go. So the second step of healing childhood trauma is a little word that I love, and it's called perspective. And when I say perspective, what I really mean is, how should this dynamic be in a family situation? How should this dynamic in a relationship be? How should I be feeling about myself? And this is where we do look externally, but we don't look for validation externally. We look to see, how should my life be? And there's no right or wrong answer to this. It's relative to whatever you believe. Again, perspective is perspective. It's whatever you believe to be right. And the greatest example I can give is, my dad used to always smash up our house. And if he would get angry, the kitchen would be smashed up, the garage would be smashed up. And I was quite used to it. It was quite a normal thing. So the night that I came home off my head on drugs and he actually attacked my mum, the kitchen was just smashed to bits. There was glass on the floor, there was a laptop that had been jumped on, the fridge door had been, like the handle had been snapped off, there was alarm clock in the garden, there were shoes in the garden, everything. But my perspective was, well, this is just dad kicking off. This is normal, this is relatively normal. But what I didn't understand is how a family dynamic should be, and that shouldn't happen. Because we live our life based on our perception, based on our experiences, or our perceptions based on our experiences, based on our beliefs, and what we've been through, and what we've been told. So yeah, beliefs and experiences, essentially. So if you've constantly grown up around the feeling of love is aggression, is being distant, is being abandoned, and that's what you believe love to be, because when you're a child, you believe your parents love you, regardless of how they treat you. You're like, well, they love me. So love must be never spending time with me. Love must be aggression. We grow up with that belief, which then we move on to those, if you're looking at it from a relationship point of view, we move into those relationships that treat us very similar. And we wonder why everything's going wrong. And if you want to understand a video why everything's going wrong in your life, click this video up here. Is it that side? No, I think it's that side. Click this video up here so that you can understand that, because there's an idea of why things will be going wrong in your life. And when we move on to the perspective aspect of things, so this is where we start to educate ourselves. So it should be like that. It should be like this. It should be like that. And this is where we start to read books. We go to therapy. And if you want therapy, if you want to come do hypnotherapy with me, you want to release your trauma, come see me. That's exactly what I can help you do. Childhood trauma specifically. And you're watching videos like this. You're literally on the path of perspective to say, how should it be? What do I need to do to change this? And you may still feel that sense of hopelessness. You may still. But that doesn't mean you can't have a place of hopefulness. It doesn't mean that you can't get there one day, because you can. And you will, if you allow this process to play out. Just like if I was digging a hole and I started digging with a piece of grass, I'm not using the right tools to dig a hole. But if I get a spade and I dig a hole, and I only dig one hole I do one dig that day. Eventually, if I do one a day, every day for the next 365 days, eventually there's going to be a relatively big hole. If I do 365 in one day, it's going to be a very big hole over a year. So it's not about how fast you do it, it's doing it for the right time frame for you specifically, because you don't have to do this in a year, you don't have to do it in a day, you don't have to do it in 10 years. It's relative to whatever you want to do. If you want to clear your traumas quickly, come and see me, because that's what we can do. We can do that in a matter of weeks. But this perspective aspect of this process is to really understand, do I need therapy? Do I need coaching? Do I need healing? Do I need trauma therapy? What do I need to do? And this leads on to the next step, which is the follow-on step. Well, it is the third step after the second. And also it follows on from the perspective and the gaining the knowledge, is the application of the knowledge. Because knowledge without application is just potential power. Knowledge with application is power. If you say, I want to learn how to change a car tyre, you read up about it, but you never change a car tyre, the knowledge is wasted, and eventually your brain will prune apart the synaptic connections, and that's just a fancy word for the connections in your brain, that habits, things we know, memories, everything we understand. It will prune apart those connections, and you will forget how to change a tyre. And this is something that I say to people, there's probably people that know more about business than me, because they've read it in books, they understand it, they've taken an MBA, and they understand it. But I've probably had more experience than some people, because I've just jumped straight in and I've just learned some the hard way, some the easy way. I've had help from other people, I've had advice from other people, and I have. And I'm not saying I've done this on my own, and I don't know what I would be doing if I did it on my own. But I've had a lot of help along the way. And for me, I know experience is better than book knowledge, it is. So when I'm talking about trauma, I'm coming from a place of experience, not in everything, and I haven't experienced everything that some people have, and I'm not claiming that I have. But I'm coming from an experience to say my life had one perspective, I gained the knowledge, I applied the knowledge, I allowed myself to feel it, which also allowed me to heal it. Now, the application, as I said, do I need therapy? Let's go to therapy. Do I need to read this book? Let's read this book. And therapy will bring out the dark night of the soul. It will. If you've been through stuff, and just like ayahuasca, plant medicine, any plant medicine and ayahuasca specifically brought out a very, 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 very traumatic experience for me. And it allowed me to realize a lot of things about life, a lot of things. And it gave me a lot of perspective. It shifted me a hell of a lot. And that actually allowed me to change in multiple ways. So yes, it was painful, but I felt it, which allowed me to heal it. Now, the healing process took a bit of time. I've done it with therapy. I've done it much quicker in times. Sometimes plant medicine does it much quicker. Now, there's not one that's best for everyone. There's one that's best for each individual unique person. just didn't finish that sentence. Each individual, each unique individual. Therapy may work better for you. Plant medicine may work better for you. It really depends on the person, and this is where the perspective part and actually finding the knowledge is a very important part of this. And at this part of application, this is where people tend to give up. And it's just the place that most people give up. And we're just one step away from getting where we want to be. And what if I said to you right now, you're 12 steps away from healing your trauma? You're going to get to 11 as fast as possible. Once you get to 11, then you're going to eventually reach 12, right? And it's kind of like that picture of the gold miners. They're both mining gold, or it's a bit of diamonds. I can't remember what it was. It was like a meme on Instagram. One picks up his tiny bit of gold, and the other one is mining away, still not found anything. And now the guy that's mining ends up giving up. If he would have hit one more pickaxe at that wall, he would have hit an abundance of gold, which would have saved him for the rest of his life, would have paid for the rest of his life. But because he gave up one step away, he lost it all. He didn't have it. Because he looked at someone else and said, well, they've got their bit of gold, I feel useless now. When your bit of gold is bigger than that. Your bit of gold is incredible, it's abundant. And your healing is going to be exactly the same. Because the real reason with childhood trauma healing is encouraging that inner child back out to know that it is safe. The inner child within you is saying, it's not safe for me to come back out, it's safer for me to be anxious, it's safer for me to be fearful, it's safer for me to do this because I've done it for such a long period of time. It's actually more familiar. The emotional mind will always win against the logical mind. And that's the battle. If there's a battle between the emotional and logical, emotion will always win. And the emotion is that inner child because it knows, I felt this way for a long period of time, I'm going to be safer because I haven't died yet. And that literally is what it is saying. So when we encourage this inner child out, when we encourage that this inner child is safe, is loved, and this is something we have to do personally, that's when we begin to heal this childhood trauma, especially if we go back to where the root cause was. And as I said about the emotional versus logical mind, this is why I use hypnosis, to reprogram the subconscious mind, because we live 95% of our life through the subconscious mind. So if we hit that, we're going to heal much faster. And if you want to understand any more about the subconscious mind, click up here and go and check that out after this video. But the final stage of the healing process is being. Being that healing. Being that loving inner child again. Being whatever it is your outcome is in this aspect. You want to go from that hopelessness to hopefulness. You want to move from thinking about it to doing it, the application, to being it. Thinking to doing to being. And you can, as I said, you can go from thinking to being. It is possible. It is possible. And Joe Dispenza talks a lot about this, and I'm not going to go too much into it in this video because that's a whole nother topic in itself. And as I said, I'm giving you a process rather than saying I'm going to give you therapy in this video. But being really is finally releasing that pain and going into wholeness, going into oneness, moving back to love, back from where you came. And the whole aspect of this video in general is really moving from that victim mentality to the victor mentality. And I've got a whole video on this called the VOOV method. Go and click that, go and watch that and understand the VOOV method, how you can move from victim to victor in a very short period of time. Because when you move to being a victor, you move into that realization and that perspective that you are causing an effect in your reality versus living in a cause and effect reality. External situation happens, I feel pain. Versus moving into a cause and effect, moving into causing an effect, you do something which makes the external reality different. For example, you want to be healed, you feel whole. You want to be abundant, you feel abundant. You want to be healthy, you feel healthy. You want to be happy, you feel happy before the manifestation comes to you, before the state of being comes to you. And that is the 4-step process to healing an inner child, to healing your childhood trauma. And if you want any more information on that, send me a message or we can have a discovery call so that you can heal your childhood trauma. But other than that, have an absolutely amazing day. Keep spreading love, kindness, and so much positivity. Yeah.